Howdy ho, ladies and gentlemen. We are looking at a match between TopRamen, our Silver Terran in the top left of Near Impact by Jujic, and Swarmlord. Swarmlord 1? I don't really know what his username is. He also goes by Steven. That's presumably his first name. And he is in the bottom right as, the Redwood? Auburn Zerg in the bottom right. I never would have guessed Auburn in a million years. Actually, I don't know. I haven't lived a million years yet, but I will one day. And so while we wait for my millionth year of existence, I hope you guys are enjoying Cosmonarchy. There's some very exciting stuff that I've been brewing, and in fact, one of the reasons why the updates to the game have not been as frequent in the past, say, week or so, is because I've been hard at work porting over Dark & Fantasies' iScript extender. Now, if that doesn't excite you, it's because you don't know what that means, and that's fair. But in fact, you might not know what a lot of Cosmonarchy means. Let's just say we are on the cusp of unlocking some of the very important tech that is going to facilitate adding a fourth race to the game. And this is after already making it so that each race has about 50 units per race on average, and maybe 30 structures or so. I actually haven't done an average check for the structures in a while, so I could be wrong about that. But actually, we did recently add some new structures. I suppose you could call the Khazitra Cesiant recent. It was in the last month and a half, probably. The Cestus and the Facade are new for the Terrans. The Bulwark and the Xenolith are new for the Protoss. So we've definitely been adding more infrastructure and more interesting ideas for that sort of thing. So it's not just, production and static defense. There's a couple of other cool ideas. Maybe we'll see some of them in this match. Swarmlord down here has gone for double Larvosk before pool, or I think so, yeah. And he's making some really row cores to defend himself, but it doesn't really look like Ramen is doing a rush build. He's just going to go ahead and pop one Vulture out, his second Fulcrum on the way. This match was played in the middle of March, so it's a little bit on the older side since we're already in the middle of April. So a little bit under a month old when I'm recording this, and definitely one of those things that, you take any strats you see in this particular match with a grain of salt, because even if balance hasn't changed that much, or mechanics haven't changed that much, certainly meta develops independent of that. Sometimes dependent on that, but also sometimes independent on that. It's just playtime. Vulture's going to go ahead and scream into the map, lay some mines. Oh, that one actually does end up getting cleared. Nice play from Swarmlord, because that is going to sort of force Ramen to enter in at his own peril later on. Good burrow micro so far. You can see Swarmlord trying to save his Droleth, and he is successful. Ramen was seeing if he could reveal it. You can stand on top of burrowed units, and that can give you a nice value there. Now, it looks like Ramen is going to be just trying to pick off the Rilla row cores. They're broodlings that you can get from larva, effectively, but their timed life never times out on the Kagra, which is our name for the creep. So now that the Quasilisks are out, this Vulture is basically going to do nothing. Rough spot here for our Terran player, because he's got some Vultures, but this amount of Quas you can't really micro against super easily. And in that time, despite all of the hectic opening games here, Swarmlord has put down a Hatrosk, so that is to be commended. Nice stuns there, honestly, for both sides. He is going to pounce upon that lone Vulture. There's one off to the side over here in the main base still that maybe Swarmlord has lost track of. And now that he's given him the run around, the Vulture will go down. We got more on the rally. And back at home, the development for Ramen is not anything to do with economics. Of course, he's been making workers this whole time. But as his last Vulture is harangued by the Quasilisks here, even gets killed by the Droleths. We love to see it. Oh, no, maybe not. Maybe just narrowly damaged. We see a Ministry come down now for Ramen, but he's mostly just been pumping the Vultures, and a lot of them have mines left, so he definitely wants to spend some of those mines down. You don't get them back if the Vulture goes down, right? Trying to clean him out with just a few of the Quas at a time, but he's already picked two Vultures. Swarmlord looking pretty strong right now. He's going to go ahead and burrow just to sort of invite his opponents further in. Now we're getting into mass Cyclops production and a star pad to drop them. So the Cyclops is like a mini walker, right? It's not as big as the Goliath by any means, right? As you might expect, given the name. And so the Cyclops does give you some friendly fire options, and it does deal AoE, of course, but that's why it's friendly fire. However, if you're going to go ahead and drop them, they can make short work of a worker line. And one of the reasons why you'll see Swarmlord space out his Larvosks here is because he's worried about the splash damage that Cyclops provide. You can fit 4 of them into a Trojan, so that will be Ramen's choice that he's prepared for this particular matchup. He's decided to transition into that point. Swarmlord going for a third base really fast, kind of low on the worker count. He's obviously ahead of Ramen, who's on 1 base still. Unfortunately, that Vulture not going to be saved, but it does alert him to the fact that his Zerg opponent is moving across the map. Kind of interesting that Swarmlord wants to take this as his third base. Also, his Drillith is going to spot that Trojan. I don't know if he's clocked it on the mini-map there. Another drop prepared. Zethrakor is just kind of doing coverage here, and a macro hatch coming out over here, but the Lakers are coming out. Big evacuation really, really quickly here, so some lost mining time, but that's about it. 4 workers go down. Oh, a 5th, thanks to that friendly, or that delayed damage from the Cyclops. Very nice, very nice. The Lakers are going to make it really, really hard for Ramen to get too much more done in this situation, so he will end up hightailing it out of here. He's got another drop prepped and ready. And look at this. I love this play from Stormlord. He's actually basically surrounded that Trojan. Oh, but he should have extended it a little bit longer to punish properly what Ramen ended up doing. We've got an Ovolith out here for detection, and now this third base is in potential trouble. Are we going to see a cancel out of that? No, I don't know if we are. He's lost track of it. That's going to be a big loss. 5 workers have gone down in the natural. Make it 6, and now most of the Cyclops will make it out as well. So this has been great counter harassment. He even goes ahead and unloads those Cyclops. Somehow the Trojan stays alive with 12 health. That's a lot of value inside them. And yeah, definitely these Trojans and Cyclops have paid for themselves. That full HP Trojan will get out of dodge, only losing another Cyclops. We got plenty more there, but of course the Lakers still exist, and that will be the end of half of that particular drop. So I think at this point, he's just going to go ahead and park his units at the potential third base candidates here. His natural's fully set up behind this. Ramen done a very, very nice job there. The only thing I'm a little bit concerned about is he's already got his third base floated over to 12 o'clock, and he's put down a 4th ministry. Is this too much greed? Does he want to keep the pressure on and see if he can maybe break the Zerg player? That would be my concern right now, is he's got the Cyclops marching across the map, but that's been scouted. Swarmlord's map control definitely pretty good. He has the tools necessary to riposte that attack. Obviously still a little bit under the pump from all of the drops. A Zethrakor heckling 12 o'clock. I mean, when you see this happening out as your as the Zerg player, your heart must sink a little bit. Like, oh my god, you feel confident enough to actually straight up take the third base, and now you're still harassing me with one guy, one Cyclops, another one over there. I'm wondering where those other Cyclops went. It looks like they were called back. I was hoping I didn't miss a big cataclysmic fight, but even still, that's another 7 workers, maybe 8 workers go down in that position. And all he's really got for himself is slightly heckling this ministry as reinforcement. Zethrakors seem to have routed the vultures, or maybe the vultures went somewhere else. I'm not really quite sure. Oh, I see. They floated back over because there was an attempted Zeth drop. It looks like the same thing is going to happen again. He's trying to get a little bit of counter value. He might have slowed down the Fulcrum Masons. This is what it looks like. He killed 2 of them. A very action-packed opening sortie here. Also, what you just witnessed there, you cannot block construction or landing with units by burrowing them. You will just have your units unburrowed forcibly. So that's a little nifty mechanic that people have to get used to. Adds a difference. Oof, more workers going down, at least 3 of them in that situation. We got a couple of workers being harassed over here. There's vultures on the place, but doesn't look like they're actively defending. So a little bit of a sloppy game on both sides as Ramen not immediately expecting to be bopped back. Now the big attack is coming from Swarmlord. We've got a bunch of Cyclops ready to riposte. Now, has he paid attention? Ooh, I'm sure it doesn't even need to at this point, but still, at this point, Ramen definitely wants to be migrating some of his Cyclops. Nice stuns on those Lakers. That might actually end up being really impactful, slowing their advance ever so slightly. Now, might be sandwiched. There's a drop ready to go. He actually sends it across despite the stakes. I mean, there's a lot of Lakers with this army. He's got 8 of them. And still a couple of quads to boot. Not really a whole lot of else going on. He comes back with a wounded Trojan and will get picked by the Cyclops. He has no detection, and Anseal has begun construction, and he just hemorrhaged a bunch of Cyclops. This could be really, really bad for TopRamen. I don't know how he's going to make do with this. Obviously, he's got that counter drop, but it's probably about 30 seconds away from really finding him much value. Now pulling his own workers. He's fallen behind the worker count of his opponent. Just like that, it swings back in favor of the Zerg. We'll be watching that drop, but I'm not so sure it's going to be too impactful. Has there been leftover defenses? Yeah, there's still a couple of Lakizilisks over here. He's going to drop them, but look at that. There's already some defenses to account for it. And as soon as he clicks it away, man, this might have just been a very explosive ending to this game. I don't think that Ramen's outright dead from the attack from Swarmlord, but at this point, I mean, this one Zeth has killed a couple of Masons, a trio, make it a quartet of victims for him. The Lakers are going to come in and just try to finish the job. And he's down to a very, very piddly amount of workers. I mean, admittedly, he's got 4 ministries, unless this one burns down, in which case he will have 3. So he can try to replenish the worker count a little bit. He did not get really hardly any damage over here. I think he killed 3 workers. And he has been slowing down the third base a lot, but is it going to be enough? We're going to see the Ovoleths attempt to go ahead and airlift the Lakers across. It looks like Ramen's paid attention to that as he cycles his units back up. His vultures come out of the, 7 fulcrums that he's got, but I'm not so sure it's going to be quite enough. Tier 2 now on the way for our Zerg player. Those Ovoleths never actually went anywhere. So is he going to forget about it? I mean, it doesn't look like it. He's parking his Cyclops expectantly. Here come the Lakers inside those Ovoleths, and now his ground army elsewhere trying to chase this drop that's impending over, and he's not got any idea of what's happening to his drop. Oh no, the friendly fire! Gotta watch out for that, the paintbrush of damage. It's still going to be enough to get a burrow off, and he might end up killing a couple of his own workers as a result. Oh, his own ant seal goes down. Insult to injury. That was more painful than the Lakers firing a couple of shots off during that time. That was so rough. A couple vultures from earlier in the game were garrisoning at the 3 o'clock position. They're going to swoop in and get some value as the Cyclops continue to heckle this position. So, looks like a couple of quads hatch, but I think they'll be brought down by the vultures. Depends on the micro, I suppose. Big army for the Zerg player still moving across. Yeah, this is kind of rough stuff here. Ramen had a ton of value, a ton of potential, and I feel like under normal circumstances, players would try to macro out of the deficit. But Swarmlord has a different tactic. He's just going to power through. Round of vultures from those fulcrums definitely helping out here, but the Cyclops need to be deployed to fight off the quads, and look at that! Look at that crowd control. Meanwhile, this third base has been utterly massacred. This is the kind of messiness that you're going to see when you don't try to just tighten up your defenses. Oh no, so many more Drolets going down. Dude, the workers lost on both sides in this game have been absolutely astronomical. He's going to come back in for another sortie, and this is actually out of range of the lake. Is really nice unload positioning there. He wipes the mineral line completely. There is nothing here for Swarmlord. Gonna scoop him up. He gets out with every single one of them. Of course, there are some quads preemptively positioned over here. Oh, he dives back in. Threads the needle, looking for maybe to unload at this position behind the minerals. He can actually get a lot of value that way. Of course, there's plenty more Zerg near the front line. Counterattack can be threatened. Unfortunately for Ramen, he doesn't end up putting it in the right spot. If you kill the Cyclops, the effect field dissipates, so no ifs, ands, or buts about that one. A couple of quads are still going to go down here, courtesy of these Cyclops, and now a deployed phalanx, a minefield, his ground army still out in the front. This is potentially quite dangerous. There's an ant seal here for detection. As long as the Cyclops don't end up killing it, he's still trying to heckle him out with these few remaining Cyclops, but he's got more units coming out of the round. This now all of a sudden it looks back in Ramen's hands. Counter damage was absolutely sublime, forcing so many additional workers and obviously losing value. The tier 2 transition taking a little bit of power. Uh-oh, we got to watch out for that ant seal, though. If it ends up going down to Cyclops fire again, then there will be nothing to detect the very important Lachisilisks that might need to be pulled here in this situation. An attempted bust was had, but there's 4 phalanx over there, way more than what the army can deal with right now, and so Swarmlord has to fall back. He's going to fully lose his third base. You can't build enough workers to oversaturate your position. A small paltry force over there from Ramen, keeping vision on the 4th base. That will now have to be the 3rd, and the drop comes back in for even more value, killing military and workers. This looks like it might be the final moment, but let's watch with bated breath because there's still Lakers on the field, baby. And that is going to be enough to rout that position. This Satrosk should in no ways die, but it's been a very messy, chaotic game. Okay, Swarmlord going to go ahead, rally his forces. The minefield goes down. They're just going to end up stunning the eggs. Not really that much value gained, but the hatches softened up quite a bit. So that's worth noting, right? Because if you're not careful, this could get raided later on. And even still, these 2 units doing a lot more, adding a lot more value. Another 3rd base attempted to take at 9 o'clock. Ramen has been on 2 bases this whole time, mind you. Flock of Mutas has arrived. No anti-air, right? It's just a couple of Cyclops. Not really the most robust anti-air that you can have. They will go down to themselves and, of course, to anything that's stiff breeze. Not the most durable unit. Very, very low HP Trojan. This one ant seal that's almost completely dead. You can see he's going to go ahead and try to elevate her up, but he needs to watch out. He's going to scout that extra base being taken at 6 o'clock. The mutas are earmarked for it. The Cyclops unload at a perfect distance. Uh-oh, they've been on a hockey, I think. Not going to get too much value there. Does he notice? He does not notice on his main base. He's too busy microing his 2 Cyclops in the enemy's face, and now the mutas are in the main base. They have wiped the floor with the Cyclops. I still don't know who's going to win this game. It's looked so good for every player in this lobby, but this was a depleted base. The gas matters a lot, of course. But the minerals a bit less so. The phalanx here just to soak up some damage. Buy some time. The watchdogs are coming online. Is it going to be enough? There's only 3 of them on this position. There's a bunch of Cyclops idle over here. Meanwhile, this very, very squishy pool army from Swarmlord is actually going to go down a lot. Thinned the herd quite a bit, but now the Lakis spines are going to cleave so many of those Cyclops. The Anciel has gone down. The phalanxes need to fall back. Only the Zoryus drawing aggro right now. All right, the mutas were cleared. The worker count still favoring our Zerg player, but remember, this base has been mining for a bit longer. Swarmlord obviously very well saturated at that. I'm going to call it the 4th, even though technically this was his 3rd and he lost it earlier. I love that 3 Cyclops end up linking up with 1 that was over here. Unfortunately, it died to friendly fire, but such is the life of a Cyclops jockey. He's going to scoop him up at the last second. This 12 HP Trojan has done so much for Ramen throughout this game. Who needs to repair? Seriously. Well, how about now? He scoops one up. Oh, it goes down. There you have it. Well, the mech army is still kind of muscling around here at the front, but now we're getting the Ultrav Cavern out. And this is what I was talking about earlier, that tech transition from Swarmlord. It mattered a lot when it was slowing him down, but now it's actively aiding him. And of course, it helps that he was just able to bisect the mech army before the reinforcements came down. If those Goliaths and Cyclops had linked up and positioned around those phalanxes, that would have been such a hard fight for the Zerg to win. But instead, he ends up taking it with impunity. Ministry has airlifted over. There's actually 2 of them over here. He can try to double expand behind this, but I don't know if he's going to be able to hold. Only 1 phalanx and it's in tank mode. Not a great position here for our TopRamen Terran to make much happen here. He's going to get surrounded, in part by the Zoryus, in part by the Zetricors. And of course, the lake is always threatened. If you dare to stand and fight, you will be cut to pieces. The Quaz obviously delaying at 12. Has he run out of steam? Swarmlord going for 15 Gorga cores. I don't know that TopRamen is going to be able to deal with that. He's got no Madrigals. He's got a very small amount of Goliaths. Most of his anti-air is in the Cyclops. And sure, that'll do some damage. But is it going to do enough? I don't know where that other ministry ended up going, by the way. It looks like it's earmarked for the, we'll call it the 8 o'clock position. Now these 6 vultures are going to see if they can raid up here. There is some anti-surface defenses coming online. Yeah, absolutely. Triple Circuit, and of course the Spraith for forcing the drops to not stay around forever. A couple of Zetricors, well, a whole lot of Zetricors are going to end up going down. This might actually bait the Terran army forward. Remember those Gorga cores hatched pretty recently. They are shown. Will Ramen fall back to a more safer position and consolidate? Because he really, at this point, needs to get some value. The lake is going to clean this up. Man, the workers have been massacred so much in this game. You see the vultures trying to get the equivalent value, but it's already defended. Now it does feel like the Zerg is in the driver's seat. But I've said that before in this game. Let's see. It really depends on how these 15 Gorgs do. The Cyclops need to be splashing, and they're not splashing right now. Oh, no, they've all been run around. I think that's the game. The Zobrielisk makes a rare appearance. That's what you turn your Lakizalisk into. And there's nothing left for Ramen here. His rallies are running dry. Couple of mine hits are good for the screenshot, but that's about it. It looks like Swarmlord has finally done it. He's actually fallen back. I mean, he's going to fall onto this position. There's a bunch of watchdogs to maybe bring down the Gorgs, but as of right now, it's pure aura and vibes keeping TopRamen in this game. There is absolutely no way he can withstand an attack on the front. Not versus what Swarmlord's been kicking out. So the Zobrielisk, if it burrows, can actually fire its projectile towards the ant seals as well, but I don't know that Swarmlord knows that. I don't know that he needs that. Pretty much everything going wrong here for TopRamen. And this is a really well-played game insofar as it was so chaotic, so crazy. It was definitely a fun game. Maybe that's the best way to think about it. Because goddamn, this is probably the most action-packed TVZ I've seen in a while. And I know we've had a lot of TVZs on the channel lately, but this one felt different. And look at that, he does burrow. He does end up burrowing it. That's very cute. Well, there we go. Deploying the last couple of units that TopRamen has, but his army is still going to be wiped out. The Zobrielisk does not care about the armor of the Phalanx. Even in tank mode, it's going to penetrate it. 6 armor pen is a whopping. Now, 13 Gorgs are going to start to get splashed to death by the Madrigals. But do you have anything versus the ground army? Remember, this hasn't been reinforced. Instead, the reinforcements are going to be coming on in from the other side, waypointing through. in an interesting fashion. And all right, the Gorgs have gone down for the most part. He's got 5 very bruised ones. This base not actually finding too much value yet because the Zethicors have to descend upon those juicy, juicy watchdogs. A couple of the mutas have been kept alive, but look at this string of Zethicors. The Madrigals are going to try to deploy for it. Ramen staying in the game really through a pure force of willpower, and the Zets have some kind of bad rally. What's going on? They're on a follow command or a shift command. I don't know what was going on there. Misclick from Swarmlord. All right, plenty of Cyclops, for sure. There's so many ministries. Ramen can remake his workers, but he can't mine from anywhere. It's the inverse of the problem that he had put in Swarmlord's position. We knocked this third out and was harassing the fourth. Now there's a fifth base up, although not mining. Really, we've seen a ton of changes that have gone in, a ton of swings. The Ultra Cores are out now. These bad boys get lifesteal on their attacks, and when they consume a corpse, they're going to start moving way faster. The last of the Gorgs end up falling. Well, I say that. There is still one floating around. Here come the mutas, though, earmarked for the main base. They'll see a lot of ministries. What is going on here, they will ask. Ground Army now trying to withdraw, retreat. Maybe if all of these ministries made quarries and then waypointed taluses to the corner bases, that could be something. There's one measly drop. It's the last hope that TopRamen has to get any counter damage anytime soon, it feels like. He's going to get his main wiped again. The sieve has been destroyed at some point during this time. And yeah, I mean, he's going to have to avert the position there, evacuating his third base. He's going to be mining from one depleted base, basically. And sure, he gets the dopamine of killing all the mutas with splash damage. Starcraft 1 Terrans wish they could without teching into Valks, but I'm afraid that ministry might not even make it out. No, it looks like it will, just so narrowly. We'll see if it gets repaired or not. Here comes the mech army. If I'm Swarmlord, I'd just kill all that, personally, but, you know, he's had a hectic game. He's streaming during all this, I'm pretty sure. Now the Cyclops try to walk in, but there's still Lake is burrowed from the beginning of the game. A couple of random quads here to frustrate efforts as well. Those will go down. A bunch of Zets hatch, and yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny to be able to walk into the Zerg's base at that time because there's no static defense really, unless you count the Lake is, but they don't get that much value, right? Still nothing at 12 happening for our Ramen. 3k minerals, 1.5k gas for our Zerg player. Ramen's got no mineral income. He's got plenty of Vespene. And that's kind of just how it is when you've lost all your outlying bases and you're on 2 depleted incomes. Zobrilisk's getting peppered, but it's not quite enough. You know, the friendly fire has definitely cost a lot for Ramen, but it's also been one of his best assets, that splash damage. Only now, 22.5 minutes into the game, is Ramen going for an Atlas. Tier 2, he knows it not, and he might not see it. I've been calling the game over for a while now. I think Ramen might agree with my estimation as he sees the Zerg descend upon his force and wipe them completely. His vibes, his aura, they are gone. GG. Swarmlord claims victory. That was a pretty sick game, especially towards that mid-game. It was a lot of fun bouncing back and forth, seeing all the stuff. I actually missed a couple of things. That almost never happens. You know, just kind of dusted myself off there after that one. Hope you guys enjoyed. Subscribe for more. We got more Cosmonarchy coming every day. And of course, this weekend, I am very happy to welcome you guys to a weekend war. So join us on Saturday for that. I'll see you guys soon. Peace.